So I'm going to come in here and set things up and see if I can get the horizontal track, the ceiling track installed, and get the door spring set up so that the door raises and lowers. I knew that installing these ceiling tracks by myself was going to present a few challenges. The first and foremost being overcoming the weight of these while holding them in place well enough to get them fastened and secured. These tracks have got a pretty heavy wall, 2 or 2.5 inch angle iron piece that's riveted right to the side of the track, and that's there for structural support to help carry the load of the door when it's all installed. So I decided that if I could get the first attaching bolt installed on the track, then I could run a couple screws into the truss and cradle the other end with a little bit of baling twine. That would be sufficient enough for me to be able to get this horizontal track mounted to the vertical track and the supporting brackets installed as well. From there, I could square off the other end to the door. That was going to be the next challenge. I knew that I needed to be able to go across the door to measure and then down the rail and then measure the diagonal between those points to get the square. And in this situation, that meant I needed to reach over 20 feet with the measuring tape. So while thinking about how I was going to do that, I took a minute to adjust it so that it was parallel to the ceiling. I knew that if I set it parallel to the sidewall, in theory, it should be good, but not necessarily square to the door. So I gave it a shot. I figured maybe, just maybe, if I move really careful, I can get the tape measure to stay hooked on the hardware as I go down the ladder, across the space, up the scaffold, and get into position to take the measurement. That failed, so I went and got a friend to help me measure while I installed these support brackets and then verified that everything was squared to the door. With one side squared off, the other side would be easy, because all I would have to do is measure from one track to the other and make them parallel, and as long as that happened, they're both squared to the door. So needless to say, the second track went up much easier and a bit faster. I decided to install the support brackets on the truss that lands at about 12 feet from the front of the building. The reason I did that is because my lights sit right on the 10-foot truss, and so I wanted to make sure that they were out of the way for the lights when the lights go on. Even though the door shouldn't come back quite this far when it's fully raised, because it should hang down a little bit on the front of the wall above the opening. I know I'll have to uninstall these and then reinstall them to get the ceiling drywall in place, but I need the door to be able to function right now. Once I get them reinstalled that time, then I will cut the excess rail off and I'll close the end of the rail to prevent the door from being able to ever come out the end. Once I got those installed, I needed to cut some pieces and install the faceplate across the top of the opening of the door. That way the door sits against flush on all sides and is sealed. That faceplate needed to be shimmed out just like the two hardware faceplates on the sides of the doors to make up the difference in dimension with the drywall for the finished wall. And then I just had one more hardware board to install from the center of the door up to the ceiling, and that would give me a place to install the spring carrier bracket to support the weight of the spring on the torsion bar. With that last little bit of details wrapped up, then I could finally get on to installing the bar and the springs. With the bar in place, I could see how much sag it had naturally, so I decided it would be best if I set up my laser to the center of the carrier bearings on the ends so that I had a really solid reference for mounting this center carrier bracket. That way, I could ensure that nothing would sag and be out of place during a normal operation of the door. After packing the first spring up the ladder to slide it on and into place, I decided this was definitely a job better suited for the scaffold. This torsion rod is longer than the outside width by about 5 inches. So as I set it up into place and get things aligned, I'm only leaving about an inch protruding on this left side, with the balance about 4.5 inches protruding on the right side. At this time, we still do intend on putting a wall-mounted door opener on this door. So that protrusion is where it will couple and then mount to the wall right next to it. But since we still have quite a while before we'll have power in this building, the final decision on that opener has plenty of time to marinate. The next day, Ola would be off work and be around to give me a hand in the shop trying to wrap this up.
So what does this do? What do you have to do here? You have to wind it up like a
These are the springs.
Yeah.
Big long coil springs.
Yeah.
So I have to wind those so that it's preloaded, and then you can pull the door and it unloads to help lift the door.
Oh.
Because there's 6 panels here, and each panel is over 52 pounds.
Uh-huh.
Plus the hardware. The whole box of hardware was probably, what, 100 pounds?
Probably.
So that's like 400 pounds of weight to try to lift the door up. Would you be willing to slide those out and move the ladder so I can kind of roll this back and forth on my own? I think I set a few of them.
Just these two, I think. Woo! That was. Feel that? Feel the burn?
The burn, yeah.
Is this the last part before we can open the door?
Yeah. Everything's set initially. Now, just got to keep going and get it wound up enough to get the right drag.
So how many winds do you need to have with that?
I don't know.
Well, what do you mean you don't know?
I don't know. I mean, it's going to take at least probably 6 or 8 to take up all of the loops that it takes for the cable to get it all the way up to high. So just at a rough guesstimation, I think it's going to be at least probably 8 wraps. I've got 2 circles on it right now, which is enough to get some tension.
Could it snap or something?
What snap?
Like, let's say you wound it up too far, well, could it snap, or I don't know anything about.
Yeah, you probably could. I'm sure you could. If you wound it up too tight, you could probably break the spring. But more likely, if you wind it too tight, the door won't close. It'll have too much tension. It'll pull the door up. There won't be enough weight to keep it closed. So you don't want it that tight.
Right. The screw gun with the bit?
No, the one right behind you on the bench. Behind you on the bench.
Getting hot?
Good catch.
What was right to me?
It's heavy, but I can get it. I am going to lift it up a little bit because this bracket, this L-shaped bracket, there's another one, and I had it up here and it fell down, so it's between the door and the tarp.
Oh, so you want me to grab it?
So if I lift it up, will you grab it?
Yeah. Are you going to squish it?
No, I'll lift it up and you can reach under it and pull it. That's one.
So strong.
These two giant springs help. You just toss it up. There we go.
Their own thing, storage has been just a tower.
But I think you're ready to go pro now. Don't you?
Yep. Yeah, I'm gonna go pro.
Here you go. You can stick this down. Or come up here. And I'll likely kick them off accidentally. And you want to take this?
Oh, jeez, Mom.
So I don't lose it. I'll leave it up here on the wall, and then we'll build it in, and we'll be here forever for somebody else to discover in 100 years when they tear down the building.
Oh, that was
Catch.
gonna knock me out.
One more. There we go. Thank you. All right, so let's give it, say, maybe put one more wrap on each and see how that looks.
You just like to park things right in the middle of the shop.
Yeah,
Oh,
lots of room to get around it.
I'm like, go to the corners. Keep the shop open and open. But no. You have it all in the middle of the shop.
Yep. What I'm good at.
You are, it's a talent. You're about to go pro.
Scaffold surfing is number 2 on my short list of going pro.
We'll find out how good you are when we do sheetrock.
Yeah.
Because you got nothing to hang on to.
I don't know about you, but it's pretty hot in here.
That's good.
Not for you?
No. But
Warm up here.
I'm just cold today. It went from decently warm temperatures and tons of snow to just being cold.
Yeah.
When you get cold, you just stay cold.
Well, you're only cold if you think about it.
Oh, jeez.
Or if you're cold, you're not working hard enough.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, you can see we're close to it. Not bad. We need to go a little tighter though. It's 48 down here, but it's got to be 55 up there. I'm like trying not to break a sweat too hard. That's a nice problem to have in the dead of winter.
Yeah, it is, especially out here.
It's 18 or 20 degrees outside is all.
Is there a machine that usually tightens us? Or does everybody have to do it? That's
Yeah.
right. How could I have missed that?
That's the machine.
Yes. Are you for it?
Nope, I'm a permanent investment.
Investment.
No, the bars that they use are longer than mine.
Oh,
They're usually like 2 foot.
yeah, so you have a little
18
more
inches.
leverage.
I'm more leverage there, yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like we're running into something. You look to see what we're running into.
No, it doesn't look like we're running into anything.
Look on the sides. All right, let her down. Come back up with it again real quick. Let me watch this and see if that's right. It feels pretty decent to start. It's still a little heavy, I guess, so.
It's heavy.
Can you lift it one-handed?
No.
You have to two-hand it?
Okay, let's see. No.
It should lift without. It should lift with effort, but not like.
Yeah, like
you know,
hernia.
Not like you're going to the gym. At about this time is when I realized that the door was not running into anything, causing it to stop. The problem was the springs were binding up because I had installed them on the wrong sides. Before bringing the springs up and installing them in place, I had investigated them thoroughly for any kind of markings or indicators to tell me which side was the left side and which one was the right side. Most of the other components on the door either have a left or right embossed on the part, or they're color-coded. But these springs had neither, so all I could do was make a best educated guess. Apparently, this is something that I needed a little bit more education in for an appropriate guess.
Yeah, that even looks better.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah. Funny how that works, huh?
Yeah.
When you do it right, it looks right.
Yeah, like that doesn't look off.
Guess it's just good that between the two of us, we have enough sense to say, hey, that looks wrong. Something's not right there. And reevaluate it, huh?
Yeah. Okay. Did I hit you?
Nope, keep going.
I can't.
That's as far as it goes?
Yeah. I mean, I'm too short.
Well, it should go up the rest of the way.
Yeah, it should, but here.
It feels heavy now?
Yeah. But I was able to lift it with one arm instead of two.
I worry that he's got me on these other spools and that it's going to not take up enough cable.
Why don't you get down here and see if you can open it? Maybe you're strong enough.
I've got 8 windings on it, but it feels like it's really light at the bottom, like it's really pulling, you know. Yeah, that's not bad. Once you really run out of spring, it should be pulling all of this through. That's me pushing it. Now we had full range of motion with the door, but it still didn't quite go up like it should. It needed to go up higher. So we thought we'd put a couple extra wraps on the springs and see if that made any difference. Boy, did it. Once I set the spring and removed my bar, the door jumped straight up. I had plenty of clearance and everything, so I wasn't in danger of getting smashed by the door, but we definitely knew the springs were way too tight now. So we immediately held the door down and then readjusted the springs back those extra couple of wraps that we gave it, so that at least it was operating safely, albeit still not correctly. So at this point, we're going to stop for now and then put in a call to the door company and have them go through and verify all the components. I started monkeying with this and I had the springs the wrong direction It wasn't until I started coiling them a couple of wraps that I realized that. So I switched them, started winding this thing up. We got to where it had a pretty good pull, like it does right now. It feels about right. Pull and lift. But past here, it runs out of spring. And anywhere from here, it comes. So I wrapped it 2 more wraps per side. I was up to 10 wraps on each side. And when I released it, the whole door shot right up. We talked to the door company. They're looking into it. We got all the specs worked out. He's going to call and verify and reconfigure everything, verify the springs, verify the drums, everything like that. Make sure that we're got everything right. So we've got it back to 8 wraps per side, which it feels good pulling. It's not, it doesn't want to jump up, but it's not like doing workouts at the gym trying to get it up. It's functioning enough for what I need. I need to get a Ranger in here. Would like to just bring it in and change the belt here. With the door functioning, we'll get the tarp off, we'll dig out the snow, get things ready so that we can at least lift it, prop it high enough, and then bring something in to do the work I need to do while they work on what springs we need. So I guess we're done with the door for now. It was a crystal clear morning. Nothing but stars in the sky this morning. And as soon as it started to lighten up, it just got socked in. We should have the correct drums for the garage door. I talked to him last night. He said that after speaking with the configuring engineers, the springs are right for the door and the setup, but the drums we have should be like 2 inches bigger diameter. And that makes a lot of sense because there's plenty of power in those springs, but we just ran out of lift too soon. And those drums being as small as they are, they just don't take up enough cable. So they needed to be a bigger diameter so that with each rotation of the drum, each rotation of the spring would give that much more lift. So I think he said that the ones we have start out at 5 1/4. The ones that we need are supposed to start out at like 7 1/2. So that's like 2 1/4 inches diameter difference. So that should be something like 7 inches extra lift per rotation. It's pretty substantial. So I think that'll make the fix. We should have those drums tonight. Ola's going to pick them up from them today while she's working. She'll pick them up on her way home from work. But I can get the door open far enough to prop it, and then I can get the Ranger in and get working on that. And when we get the drums tomorrow, I can change those out in the morning and get finished getting things brought in.